Stellaris has changed so many times over the past 9 years, and the devs don't seem like slowing down. So in this video, I thought I'd list the 14 things I'd change in Stellaris, whether that's new stuff and DLC, improvements to existing features, or a bunch of quality of life changes, because I play this game far too much. Then at the end of the video, we'll see which changes I asked for last year that actually came about. Make sure to leave what you want to see change in the comments. Now, let's get into it. The first thing I want to see changed, especially because I play single player a lot, is improved diplomacy. Diplomacy is incredibly fun if you ever play multiplayer games, and it's not a meta sweat fest, because you can talk to the people and plan, help each other out.
It took me like almost 30 years and I finally got my second planet.
You can even maybe stab them in the back. This is really lacking in the single player experience. For instance, in the UNE run I did, I barely ever interacted with other empires once I got my federation going for the trade buffs. Sure, I may have vassaled one, but that's about it. I'd love to see things like goals between allies or just empires near you. Maybe, hey, let's make a fleet and get ready to fight this evil person who's been bullying us on the borders, and we'll attack them at this year. This could give you a lot of opinion if you do it, and then the opinion could give great rewards like increasing research agreement or commercial pact, something that has roleplay implications but also helps mechanically and rewards you for the effort of building these strong relations. This will let you shape the galaxy in a different way, making the galaxies feel a lot different, but also something you feel you've controlled. You can also push the AI in a bit of a nudge to do what you want to do, because at the end of the game it's a sandbox game where you want to do something, the AI are kind of a tool to it, but obviously you don't want it to be too strong, otherwise you can abuse it. You can also improve the diplomacy tradition maybe to allow for these expansions of packs or goals. Now on the flip side, I really think there should also be much more improvement to wars. I did mention this last year, and the devs have talked about revamping it, so this is very possible, but I'd like to give more specifics in case they're looking for more improvements. I really like the proxy wars that were added. This shakes it up and also gives more of that diplomacy and more impact in the galaxy. These are the sort of changes I really like, and that's a really good push in the right direction for diplomacy, espionage, and war. Peace tiers and this war screen is the biggest issue. You basically have, I will win everything I said, we'll only take what we have, or we'll just surrender everything that we want. There's no way to individually piece out different members of the wars, which get really annoying, especially if you've completely taken them, and there's no other options. I think EU4 does it quite well, where you can separate this out. You could take money, energy, trade off them. You can take different bits of land, even if you've taken other stuff. It's just based on the war score. And hey, Stellaris is huge. We could do a lot with this. You could take their relics, which have war score assigned to them. We even have specimens now. You could choose to enforce a new government. Maybe you portion them up into different vassals. Maybe you've gone to war and you just wanted a really nice, aggressive tech agreement or commercial pact because they're really far ahead in that sense. Maybe you could even give them a goal that they need to aim for. They need to increase their military by this much, or we're going to murder you again. This could be tech, economy. There's a lot that can be done, but at the minute the wars feel pretty outdated and annoying because it's all or nothing. Now on to what I see the most currently. Internal politics. I do agree, I want this to be changed, but as well as mentioning it last time, I really struggle with this idea as it can be annoying and tedious. Stellaris is about the wider galaxy and not too much about your internal stuff, and we already have a lot that shape the nation, with factions, leaders, agendas, ethics, civics, government types, and with the new DLCs, the governments also do change, shift, and grow depending on your ascension. So I wouldn't actually like to see a huge change, adding more systems, adding more complex, tedious things that you might have to micromanage. So I think they need to be careful with this. I think the internal politics rework should be a huge revamp of migration. Maybe something similar to tourism. I always default back to Civ because I've played a lot of Civ as well. But tourism's a really cool factor that encourages making your place a utopia at the cost of industry and stuff like that. Essentially, it will add a new win condition. Rather than blow up a galaxy like most of the win conditions are, you could make your empire the central pillar of the galaxy that you just win. This could be stuff like, for example, blockers have more of a tourism modifier or amenities or something like that. Industry might lower it, and there might be ways to pretty up planets. Maybe there's big decisions. Maybe instead of mega structures, there's big planetary decisions that just really improve the planets. These things can make attraction stronger, which makes migration stronger to you. Maybe it increases tourism, so you just get more trade. So they're not moving there, but they're spending money there. Like you could maybe build mega structures that make it easier to get to your empire, to discover like big cruise ships, like galactic cruise ships around your empire. And obviously there could be an opposite to this. Like if you're being evil, nobody's going to want to come to you, but your industry and pop efficiency is really good. Let me know your ideas for internal politics. I did struggle really to think what I would want with it, but I think for internal politics overall, it's more of a modifier, and I really like the idea of tourism. I've talked myself into it. I'm trying to hit 100k subscribers by the end of the year. A lofty task. I hope you can help me out. It's free and it's much appreciated. The next one is a bit left field, to say the least. And that's a Dungeon Master / God mode / scenarios. Now, scenarios have been talked about, so that's not too left field. Scenarios would be cool to create a galaxy situation with maybe wars going on, or scripted events that can happen, and you have to try and survive it and beat it. Content-wise, this would be insane. I can make and play different scenarios that are quick to the punch. We've already skipped the early game, and it's this big war, or it's this big situation that we have to resolve, or there's different goals that you could get to, like, can you get 1,000 tech in 10 years? By improving this empire, or something like that. Some sort of sandbox modding environment where anyone can create a scenario and a goal, and it's kind of like a little puzzle where the person would have had to complete it so they can submit it, and other people can attempt it. Maybe there's a high score system, they did it in this time. You can also have these scenarios just be more of an RP environment, like how we have the Star Wars, Star Trek mods, where you're putting to these environments, these custom galaxies, custom empires. There's a lot you can do with scenarios, and it extends how much there is to do in the game, and the devs don't have to do too much because the community can make scenarios then. The DM / God mode, though, would be something like when we're playing multiplayer, there's a role where the person in charge can essentially give resources, trigger events, trigger wars between players or AIs, or even jump in as an AI to quickly do something like send an offer to them, basically acting as all these AIs while you have a group of people playing in the game and role-playing as their empires. This would mean the galaxy would be a lot more alive, and just like Dungeons & Dragons, there could be a story ongoing, people meet up for sessions, and it's basically like Stellaris becomes the sci-fi Dungeons & Dragons environment for the sandbox. It would honestly be cool. Imagine the videos we could make. I could be the DM and we just make a story up. There's just so much you could do with that. And it's, again, down to the players to make the content from it. But if it could be set up, the devs wouldn't really have to think about it again until it breaks. Now, this improvement, I think, has to come soon because I am annoyed. The expansion planner. Okay, it works. It works, but it only works for damn planets, okay? Why? We have so many things that this could be used for with tabs at the bottom. First of all, arc furnaces. Just have a list up here if we own systems that we can see, like this, like surveyed, colonizable, and just tell us where the good systems are instead of having to check every system like this. Oh my word, that does my head in. Like, there is one with lots of stuff, but do you know how long it took me to find them with this many systems? Do the same for Dyson swarms. Literally can easily fit with a tab here. We literally have tabs for the government page. Please, while you're there, please just add star bases here, as well as maybe an expansion planner. Can even have orbital rings, because having to click on these when they're all trade and switch them over to anchorages makes my skin crawl. And you can have templates there too. We're going to get onto the templates and stuff. And of course, add Megacorps here too. Even Overlord stuff, like you can just have 4 or 5 tabs at the bottom of here where it just makes it easier for the Empire. You can have them on the side, sure, but you can have much more information. The expansion planner, here's how much trade they make. Here's how much building slots. Easier information. I do think trade can be improved. I did mention that I wanted criminal megacorps reworked, which is done. You can actually negotiate with them. And I also wanted border trade or trade rework. Border trade doesn't matter anymore, and the trade rework did happen. But I think you should be able to hire / sell shipyards or ships. Now, this is similar to what the salvagers could do. You can reclaim vessels or scrap, but maybe you could just sell or put in orders for ships with another empire. You could just click a diplomacy button and they have to agree. And maybe you can rent out a shipyard. Be like, okay, here's a shipyard you get for a year. I'm not allowed to use it anymore, but you can use it to build ships or repair. So you could buy an outpost somewhere next to an enemy, go heal there, or build more ships and reinforce quickly. Next would be loans and banks. Yes, we want economic simulator. This could improve the market because currently it works, okay? We have the galactic market, we have market fee, and we have a simple supply and demand issue. What if you want to take out a massive loan? Maybe it's a civic, but you can offer loans to empires and they have to pay back a percentage later on. Maybe on here you could have a negotiation screen instead. So you could put up, I'm selling alloys at a cut price compared to the galactic market. I think there's a lot more you can do with trade to make the galaxy more alive. Now, an improvement I'd like to see is to Empire history. This was mentioned last time and it didn't exist. But yes, we do have the Empire focus and Empire timeline, which is nice. But can I get a show of hands, people who actually look at this? Oh, I made my gateway here. But I don't really care, and it's quite awkward to see, especially in like, I'm 90 years in and there's so many pages and I can't make this bigger to view more on here. I would love if this was just a bigger tab and it had more information on it. Like, why not, you know me, graphs. Why can't we just have a graph of like how many pops we had over time, our economy over time, tech over time, military over time? It would paint a nice picture as well. And hey, you could have an overlay that toggles these events on top of the timeline of the graphs. You can be like, ah yes, we built up the war and then we went to war with them. We had this much power and stuff. Maybe we should have waited a little bit until a few years later. You could also have a leader chart. So instead of just every empire thing, you could have seen like a leader's journey through things, their accomplishments, their deaths, and also like EU4 has a time lapse. Imagine being able to view this galaxy over time. This was my UNE members only series, but we went to almost 300 years into the game. So time lapse of that would have been sick. Next is this lovely screen, Espionage. This was mentioned last year and it has had some improvements like smuggle population and of course proxy wars. However, I think it can get better. First off, why do you have to come to an empire and click here to know your intel and stuff on it? Just have in context a nice little tab here for espionage and lots of quality of life, like do this operation constantly. Why do we have to keep going through all the events and going in here, espionage, clicking smuggle population? You can easily assign envoys in that tab. We need quality of life for it because it's just annoying and I can't be bothered. In terms of the operations to make them more useful, infiltrating the Empire and finding blueprints of their ship designs. Maybe it just gives you the blueprints so you can manually make a counter to their designs, or we found a vulnerability, you get 20% more damage to corvettes. Makes it more interesting too. I really like the idea of faking your own fleet power. As you know, empires won't declare war on you if they think they won't win. So faking your own fleet power actually protects you and gives espionage a useful use if you don't have the resources to make a big fleet. You're just pretending to be strong and marching your army up and down a hill. It's worked in real life, okay? So why not? I really like also having them stationed at your empire. This gives a counterplay to espionage, which is why they don't want to make things strong. So why don't we give a counterplay to it? So you can put it at home to hopefully catch any spies. You could also make spies separate to envoys or lower their envoy count until they escape or you have to go rescue them. I know this is from Civ, but I really like that mechanic, having to save them or buy them back. You could also use them to assassinate troublemakers internally, like lowering factions attraction. I also think there should be endgame espionage techs or options. For example, against fallen empires. Why can't we steal the techs? I'd also love it if we could actually steal the economy. Again, yes, this is from Civ, but I liked stealing people's economy. Espionage is on the right direction, but I still think it could be better. Federations, I think they need a pass. The diplomacy tradition doesn't really do too much. It does still give you the tech, and it does give you some nice bonuses to federations, but I think it could do more. Maybe it should give more XP gain or buffs to the buffs of what you get from a federation. Apart from like a value pass on the federations, because the numbers sometimes aren't that great, I think agendas within federations would be nice. Similar to what we have in our local council, these agendas could be a way for the leader to focus the group to do X thing. Maybe it focuses on specific branches of tech, if you're in a tech federation, or it prepares for war, grow the economy, expand, whatever is related to federations. This could let you guide the AIs, similar to what I wanted to do with diplomacy, and make the galaxy feel more alive and allow you to scheme with your federation friends. And who knows, maybe they'll disagree, so there's some sort of internal conflicts too. Storms. I just think they don't really matter, and you don't really notice them. You're paying for a DLC that does almost nothing. That's not to say they can't be strong, and they do actually give lots of different unique effects and situations. It's just they don't show up when you want them to. They're really RNG. It's not great. I don't really know how you fix that, so let me know in the comments. However, I do think there should be a mid-game crisis to do with them still. That did get removed. However, you could have this where the entire galaxy will get affected by it if you don't prepare, either by yourself or as a community. Could be quite similar to the Voidwind Plague, where you can negate the effects or just deal with it. It makes it more like the Black Death in EU, where you've kind of got a bit of a warning before it builds up and you can do stuff to prepare, rather than them just spawning on you instantly. This isn't scripted, but I just realized, why do storms not have a warning that they're going to appear so you can prepare for it? There's a lot you can do with storms. It needs a pass. And now for a quickfire round of small improvements I'd love to see. I really think we should be able to send volunteers and armies to help other empires. You don't want to get involved with the war, send volunteers. This is similar to Hearts of Iron 4. They're usually limited, so you can't send your entire fleet, but this could help your opinion. It could help stop other empires that you can't really get to. I'd also like a visual. So what the heck is going on in this galaxy? Who's at war with who? It's very hard to actually tell without going, okay, let's zoom in a bit. Oh, these are red. This is gray. Maybe there could be a war map mode. It color codes based on the wars if there's multiple wars going on, and there's explosions across borders just so you can visually understand what's going on very quickly. Maybe there could be a huge galactic crisis revamp. Yes, you can declare someone a crisis, but all it does is just declare everyone on them. Maybe there's a build up to it. Okay, we've got to put resources in. If we get to X amount of resources, we'll get even more modifiers against them, so you can take down bigger threats easier, and they really need to stop the galactic community. Maybe they can try and disband the community. There could also be a huge restructure of policies. Maybe we add healthcare, because that doesn't really exist in the game, which might increase migration because people are more likely to move to your empire, which can then fill out your workforce, which is something that until you ascend with the insane pop growth modifiers, you need to invade to get more pops. Why is there no Megacorp Origin? It's a crime. Like, something that plays into the story of becoming a Megacorp and setting you up nicely for a Megacorp run through would be incredible. Just change the way the spawning works for Megacorps, because you're more likely to get people similar ethics and government. Next up would just be a nomadic origin. No planets would be sick. I played the mod from Dark Space where you can do this. It works really well. It's really fun. And guess what, guys? The creator of Dark Space actually worked with Forgotten Empires on Infernals. That's all I'm saying. Forgotten Empires, that's your next DLC. Next, slow the damn power creep. 1.0, if you found a mineral deposit, you were ecstatic because you weren't getting 100 minerals off the bat. The numbers have gotten quite absurd, and they get absurd quickly. Some numbers have to be changed, slowed down, some modifiers maybe not as exponential, and this has been addressed by the devs, but I just wanted to mention it because I do agree with that performance. They've said they're working on it in the dev diaries, we've made videos on it. 4.0 basically added more power creep, so more ships, and ships was the reason for lag, which I've been saying for years. Lowering power creep will help, doing something to ships will help. Hopefully we can get back down to the goals they are aiming for. In terms of settings, there should be a faster galactic community setting. You're telling me we can speed up the growth of the game, we can speed up the tech and traditions, we can change logistic costs, we can make it more habitable, but we can't make the galactic community faster. Why can we customize all of this and then some things take years compared to how we sped it up? Everything should be a setting. This is also applied to stuff like fauna growth because that can't be sped up. It should just be linked to pop growth, surely. Crisis dates. Why don't we add a toggle so that crisis guarantee spawn on this year? If I want to fight the crisis at year 50, I should have the option to do that. The AI being able to do a lot more. For example, they can't do anomalies, so they don't get specimens, which then you can't steal. Same with relics, stuff like that. They also don't spawn unique systems that they might want to protect. They can't do a lot of the spying stuff. Yes, some things are annoying and OP. Make us have counter intel. Solved. They can't play certain origins. They barely use jump drives. They should feel more like players. Sure, there might be some mechanics that are stupidly OP that they shouldn't be able to spam and abuse, but that can be found out. A revamp to other Crises. Satana has a lot more lore and story to it. The other Crises are just basically kill them. And a revamp to Fallen Empires with a more active role in helping out. This could be within the internal politics and other things I mentioned. Now for the fun bit. All the quality of life things that annoy me in the game. Has anyone gotten a bit overwhelmed when creating a new empire these days? There's so many origins and civics and I can't find them sometimes and it's annoying. We need a search bar. Pretty simple. Just a search bar for all these things would be very, very nice. There's just a lot of options, especially when it comes to traits and stuff. And they're not necessarily alphabetical because you might not have the condition. So I still want to know why I can't take it and then I can fix it. I'd love to also be able to select hyper relays and just say go here to here rather than having to go hyper relay, hyper relay, hyper relay. Why can't I just be like, do this? Just an easier way to hyper relay across because I just don't build them. I just can't be bothered sometimes. Next, we should be able to change the fleets by dragging them. Like sometimes you want two different fleets organized, like one at the bottom here and one at the top. Outline reorganizer would be nice. The next annoying thing, especially playing a lot of these late game things and with the text that increase fleet size, I have to go through each one and increase them all to max if I want my fleets to be bigger. There should be a button to just automatically set all my fleets to maximum size, and then I can just click reinforce all. Way less clicks needed. Templates. Now, of course, we do have ship templates, but you have to remake them every time. A lot of people want a button where you can import them. I don't know how much I agree with that, because really, should we be min-maxing this much? Something I absolutely would like, though, are planet templates. Not necessarily saving them across different games, but just being able to copy and paste. Maybe I want a bunch of food worlds like this one. Can I not just copy and then click paste here and it builds it the same over time? Automation will do random things. I want clone vats, genomic research facilities, farming supports in this. Let me just copy and paste planet layouts. Or at the very least, let me queue up upgrades. This is what does my head in. Say I'm building here. I can't click to queue the upgrade to this specialization until it's built. So I have to keep coming back to the planets. I'm going to want to put tech buildings in this slot, but I can't queue that. This is the same for damn star bases. If we downgrade this and upgrade it, I can't queue up anything. I have to remember and come back to it. Or at least let me say, okay, I want an anchorage. I want this anchorage. If it can't build the deep space black site because it needs a planet, just leave it blank. Let me copy, paste it into here. Hell, just have the building slots all here. Like, say this is a star base. There's building slots here. I just go click, 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 click. Bam. I don't have to click on each one because there's no tab button on this. Next is science ships. Science ships used to be the most painful thing ever, and automation is the greatest thing they've ever added for quality of life. However, there's some issues. There's no automate explore black holes. If they run into an enemy, they just stop. Why? Fair enough if it's on evasive, but like at least let them retreat and then start exploring again. I'd also like to keep automation on even when nothing's available. And when something available happens, then it can automate. Maybe make it check every month. It doesn't need to be program heavy. Just be like, we're automating. Is there anything this month? No. Next, these damn minor artifacts. The fact you have to click them and remember they're on a cooldown, stupid. Get rid of it. Make it like the edict system where instead of Unity, it takes up minor artifacts monthly. For celebrating diversity, why is that not just an edict that gives you monthly Unity that adds up to whatever and that airfix retraction? Why is reverse engineer? Okay, maybe this one is harder to do, but maybe it's an edict that triggers this every 10 years or whatever that number is. These applications, split them down into what they actually give, have a flipping edict that gives this for that time and split the cost. Easy fix that for you. First contacts, the clicking needs to come down for that. They're just annoying. Why do we have to keep clicking OK for it to progress? Dumb, stupid, make it easier. It's not actually, I don't know why, I'm just so triggered. The workforce sliders, very annoying. If I set this to work this many jobs and more jobs become available, it will go up. That's not how sliders and maximums work. It shouldn't increase, it should stay at that number. Next, map icons need to be improved. What megastructure is here? If you watched this video, trying to find seals was a pain because there's no icon for it and they hide within other megastructure icons. They should be stacked, they should be separated. The UI on the map, just with the megastructures, could be separated out. Better keybinds would be very nice currently. You can't really customize keybinds. With all that being said, the custodian team is doing a great job. So here is a list of some ideas from the previous video that have been implemented into the game over the past year. I was talking a lot about traits and how we needed more traits to mix things up as we would always pick the same. Well, he added phenotypes and a bunch more traits, so they actually blew me out the wall with that. I also said about total fleet power in a system. That's now in the game. You can hover over and it tells you them all. So nice. Enclaves. I was so annoyed we had to keep clicking to give us the 10% research speed of Unity. Now they just roll, and if you've got the energy, it automatically does it. Very nice. I also said the big DLC should be on genetics. It obviously wasn't called genetics, it's called biogenesis. I also did mention about proper organic ships, which is an insane shout. We caught that, and they're really cool. I also mentioned a free way system, like with virtual modularity and nanotech. We got that and better because they're modular. I also did mention planet modding, which is kind of like wilderness, not really. I think upgrading planets could be explored a lot more. That's the 14 things I'd change in Stellaris and a review of last year. Let me know if you agree with me. What else you'd like to see change? What are your annoying quality of life features that annoy you into being angry at the game? Once you've done that, you can watch this video that YouTube's recommending you. Subscribe right now. Please, please, please. Goodbye.